for the main characters, so they must be in their mid-20s now, a few years younger than me. Aunt Violet nodded. Nathaniel was a lecturer in early medieval history at the university, and his interests extended to East Anglian folklore and fairy tales. He came up with the idea for the story, incorporating some of those fairy tales, and Iona was going to illustrate it. After he died, she went ahead and wrote the book using his notes. The book was an instant bestseller, as they say, partly because of the tragedy, I think. Which was... I swallowed my impatience, along with a bite of savoury, salty bacon. She leaned across the table, lowering her voice. He fell off a tower in the grounds of Thornton Hall, which is right next door to Strawberry Cottage, after one of Geoffrey Thornton's wild parties. A flash of mischief lit her eyes. I may have attended one or two myself. I don't doubt it. Aunt Violet might look like a sweet little bookworm, but she had quite a backstory of her own, as I was learning. Her face sobered. Anyway, the theory is that Nathaniel's fall was an accident, after he became intoxicated at a Midsummer Night's Eve bash. Iona never understood why he was up there in the middle of the night, and no one else came forward as a witness. A possibility chilled me. Maybe he jumped. Gosh, I hoped not, especially since he left 2 young daughters and a wife. I knew all about the loss of a parent. Did the police investigate? I'm sure they did, Aunt Violet said. They must have had a good reason to consider it an accident and close the case. I wasn't quite as confident about police investigations, especially after Aunt Violet had become a suspect in the garden murder and was cleared thanks to me rather than the authorities, but I didn't comment further. At this point, any evidence contrary to the cause of death ruling was probably long gone. Light footsteps tapped on the stairs, and my mother, Nina Marlowe, entered the kitchen, dressed in a white skirt and pink sweater set, carrying a spiral-bound notebook. "Good morning, all," she said, her smile including the cats, now licking their paws after breakfast. "What's on the agenda today?" She set the notebook on the table before heading over to the stove, where she retrieved her plate. Unlike me, Mum was tiny, with short dark hair that suited her elfin features. I took after my father, medium in height and build, but I had Mum's hair, which I wore long, and the Marlowe nose. Such fun to see it in historic portraits and photographs. Our ancestors may not have passed down much money, but we had their distinctive, slightly long, elegant nose. "Oh, this looks yummy," she said, joining us at the table. "It's delish," I said. While we ate, I told her about our plan to visit Iona York in Hazelhurst and discuss the upcoming reading. "That's nice." Mum stiffened a little at the mention of her hometown. She'd had a very unhappy family life, and after escaping to the United States with my father, she'd never spoken about her parents or her older brother, Chris. It was only after we'd returned to England to help at the bookshop that she'd reconnected with her brother. Uncle Chris was fine, his wife Janice not so much, and they had a son, Charlie, about my age. He was okay too. "I'll mind the store while you're gone and, between customers, work on a little something." She patted the notebook. I hardly dared to ask. "A poem?" After my father's death last year, Mum, a well-regarded poet, had experienced a stubborn case of writer's block. She'd worried that it was permanent, but I'd hoped that time and healing would refill her creative well. If books were my life, poetry was hers. Mum picked up a piece of bacon and nibbled. "Yes, the start of one anyway." "So great." I shared a smile with Aunt Violet. Moving to Cambridge had been a good decision after all. Not that I had many doubts. After breakfast, we walked down Magpie Lane to the garage where Aunt Violet kept her gold Cortina. Despite being older than me, the vintage sedan was spotlessly clean, with an engine that purred. Aunt Violet's good friend and sometimes handyman, George Flowers, kept the car in perfect working order. Reminded of George, I realized how much I missed his good-natured bluster. He was out of town, taking his first vacation in donkey's years, as he put it. With Aunt Violet at the wheel and me in the front left passenger seat, a position I still wasn't used to, we bumped up the cobblestone lane past the tea shop, the bicycle shop.